Hi, everyone. This is Heather Hodges. I'm an organizational psychologist. Welcome to my show. This is the place where we say I'm in to creativity, bold thinking, transformational growth, and meaningful conversations. In today's fast-moving business world, creativity isn't just for artists and designers. It's the key to solving complex problems and staying ahead of the competition and building teams that thrive. But here's the challenge. Most organizations say they want more creativity, yet their cultures and leadership behaviors often stifle it. So how can leaders unlock the creative potential in their teams? And how can businesses harness creativity to drive innovation and success? Joining me today is Shannon Tremel, a business leader who understands the power of creative leadership. Shannon, a native of Tampa, Florida, holds a BA in mass communications with a focus on public relations from the University of South Florida. With 29 years of sales experience, including 18 years in the healthcare industry, she has established herself as a dynamic leader. Shannon excels in driving business growth, managing teams, and cultivating a positive workplace culture. Her experience lies in developing effective marketing strategies and building a high-performing sales team across various healthcare sectors. Shannon, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Heather. I am so excited. It's so great to see you again. And thank you so much for having me.
Oh, thank you for agreeing to come on the show and saying I'm in. You know, you and I, we met many years ago when we were both working for Encompass Health, and you have gone on to excel in executive positions since then. So tell us a little bit about yourself, besides just your bio, and what you've been up to these last couple of years.
Sure. So I was at Encompass for about 10 years, and then I left, went to another home health organization, and then I wanted to explore other industries. So I went to a company that was focused on staffing, and they focused on international staffing. So bringing nurses from overseas to the States.
That's cool.
And then I found myself really kind of missing the healthcare home health piece of it, which I never thought I would say. But so I came back to a consultant company, AK Consultants, and I was a sales coach consultant for her. And quickly she merged companies with Griffin Resources, where I am now. And they had always gotten referrals through LinkedIn or just from referrals from clients. They never had a sales arm. So they were like, "We need you," and I was like, "Sign me up! I'm in!" Right? So now I'm leading and I'm developing the whole sales department of Griffin Resources.
Wow! And how long have you been there with Griffin Resources?
So through acquisition, I officially joined them in August. I started with AK in the beginning of last year, but through acquisition was August.
Okay, that's fascinating. So I did not know you went on to do that international recruiting. What was that like?
So it was very interesting finding those spots where so many open positions at hospitals, home health agencies. I mean, there are so many open spots, but the process to get the clinician overseas to the States, it's about 18 months, and that's a short end. So it's getting the buy-in of the hospital systems to see the big picture, the long-term focus, and fill those gaps in the meantime while we were working to get them from overseas. That was a challenge.
Yeah. Wow. You think about it, 18-month runway, that's a long time. But you start filling that pipeline, I'm sure, and then it starts, filling those open spaces. Gosh, and we really needed that. We still do. Like, we still have a shortage of clinicians in the U.S. Wow. Well, we're talking about creative leadership today. And when we think about creativity, I think a lot of people associate it with artists. But in business, creativity is a game changer. So why do you think creativity is important for organizations today?
So it's an absolute must, in my opinion. I mean, it fuels innovation, it fuels problem solving. It's crucial for staying competitive in today's fast-paced and crazy world,
Mm-hmm.
right? We are living in some crazy times.
Yeah.
So, and it leads to being ready to navigate change and stand out.
Mm.
It's all about applying those new ideas that will drive the business and drive the growth. And without creativity, none of that's going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Gosh, you totally hit the nail on the head there with change. Like everything is changing, and if we don't have creativity, how are we going to adapt to that change? Wow.
Great point.
Right. Well, and okay, so you've been in the industry, or you've been in the workforce. You said 29 years, and girl, you do not look like it. Well done.
Thank you.
Yeah. So you've had a lot of experience. You've had a lot of different bosses. You've had a lot of different leaders. You've also led a lot of different teams, and I've had the privilege of watching you lead teams, and I'm curious, from your perspective, what are the most common leadership behaviors that unlock creativity in teams? Like, how do we get there?
Right. So I think the most important piece of that is creating that safe space where your team members feel like they can come to you with ideas. I've always been a proponent of there is no bad idea, and I've always been one of those that often says, what do you think? And sometimes people are like, whoa, you're asking me what I think? Like, no one's ever asked me that before. I'm like, yes, of course. So, I've always told my team that, and I've reiterated it time and time again, that there are no bad questions, there are no bad ideas. And you have to, as a leader, promote that trust with the team and really, lead them with that collaborative, approach. And then they'll know that they can come to you and know that they can speak up and not be, humiliated or put down for it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So that safe space, and then just making it okay for people to share their insights, their ideas.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So what about the flip side of it? What leadership habits or behaviors have you noticed that tends to shut down and just like stifle or kill creativity?
First and foremost, it's micromanagement. Micromanagement can kill creativity. It can kill strong teams. I've interviewed people in the past and they're like, well, I hate micromanagers. And, you want to be like, oh gosh, well, do they want to work? But some of those team members that have said that have been rock stars. They've been, some of the top producers. And it's true. I mean, no one wants to feel like they're under, the microscope and being looked at all the time. And when I first became a leader, I really had to pay attention to recognizing accomplishments. That lack of recognition is another thing that really can stifle creativity. You have those personality traits, right, that really want that acknowledgement and that a boy. And so ever since I first started in leadership, I've always really had to make sure that I did that, because sometimes it's really easy to overlook.
Well, knowing your Enneagram number, and you are a 3 on the Enneagram, I'm an 8. We are both so future focused, and you in particular, you're very goal oriented, and so you're always looking ahead. But that's great self-awareness for both of us to remember that it's important to recognize and honor the contributions, and even looking back and celebrating what the team has accomplished while still moving forward. And if we don't do that, you're right. Some people need that extra pat on the back, that atta girl, that atta boy, like, well done. Let me recognize what you did. So how did you learn that lesson? Like, how did you learn that that's what teams need?
I almost lost someone that really needed that attaboy for not doing it enough. I thought I was doing it, and then with that trust and with those open doors that I've always created, they came to me and they told me, like, I really feel like I'm not getting, I'm one of the top, I'm not getting really some shout outs for these accomplishments, and I need, I need that from you.
Yeah.
So then I really got together with the other leaders at the branch and made sure we were all kind of doing it. And then honestly, that person became even more of a rock star and took their, what they were bringing to the table and their productivity to the next level.
Yeah.
So it really showed like, wow, what an impact that can have on those people that really need it.
Wow. I was at a training. I was leading a training. It was last year sometime. So, not to identify the guilty, but I heard someone in the back of the room. We were talking about leadership and this importance of honoring and recognizing and complimenting and calling out good work when we see it. And I heard this person say, "That's what the money's for."
Oh gosh.
I know. I'm like, wait, you said that out loud. So what do you say to that when somebody says, yeah, that's what you're getting paid for. That's what your paycheck is for every 2 weeks. Why should I compliment you?
No, we have to understand what fuels the fire of every member of our team, right? Some people want the recognition. Some people want the title. Some people just want to have the autonomy to just do whatever they would like, and not be so like told what to do. So you have to dig into each individual on your team. And if you're not doing what fills their bucket, what fuels their soul, then you're going to lose them without a doubt. So, and that person in the back that yelled that, obviously they're all about like the monetary piece of it. And as long as they're given, what they want in their bucket, then that's what fuels them. So to each their own, but you don't need to yell that out.
I know. You said that out loud.
I'm like, whoa, okay.
Yeah. No, but that's so true. And for that person, that obviously was probably what, like you said, fuels their fire, but that's not what their team needs. Everybody's different. As you said, some people are looking for just the pat on the back or the silent, very introverted people may not want to be called out and recognized publicly, but given some sort of quiet recognition or just maybe more responsibility or more autonomy, like that is important to a lot of people. Autonomy is important to me. So yeah, I know. Wow. Okay. So you mentioned, some really important aspects there too about that safety. And psychological safety, it's a hot topic in organizations right now. And we need that kind of safety to be truly creative, because when we're uptight, when we're worried about retribution or retaliation or not being taken seriously, or, you said earlier, being, criticized or mocked or humiliated by a leader for sharing our ideas. So how can leaders create an environment where employees feel safe to take those creative risks and to share their bold ideas?
So we have to be transparent and we have to be honest with our teams. Like as a team, you need to know where the organizational goals are, where the challenges are in the organization, the decisions that are going on, and them being a part of that, the team being a part of that. It really builds the trust with their leader, right? They can't be left in the dark because that's not going to be beneficial. And when they are kept in the loop, on where the company stands, I think that they feel safer to take that opportunity to share more openly, And then also, you got to lead with vulnerability. Like I'll be the first to admit to my team that I messed up or, that we need to pivot. And it's not easy to do. Many times, admitting that we've made a mistake is so hard, but nobody's perfect. It'd be great if we were, but nobody is, And so also, I would say encouraging feedback is super important too. When I first stepped into a leadership role, I had actually sold in the field side by side with some of the team members that I was managing. And so they had no problem coming to me and telling me everything I was doing wrong. And it hurt, like it was like, oh my gosh, and sometimes it was their perception, that's saying perception's reality. And I didn't feel like I was doing that, but that's what they perceived. And they were tough. Like some of those people were really tough on me, but I am grateful to this day. And I've shared this story actually multiple times because it shaped the leader that I am today. So I'm super grateful for it, but it was hard.
Wow. Some of those lessons that we learn as, young supervisors that just leave an indelible mark on us, and shape our leadership in the future. That hurt back then, but that's how we learn wisdom. You learned a lesson that you have adopted and taken from knowledge, information to knowledge to wisdom. And that is so, so important. So I'm curious. Okay. So backing up just a little bit about the vulnerability, because that's a lesson, that's a hard lesson I've had to learn in my life, because, as an 8, I armor up, I put on all kinds of, external barriers, my suit of armor to make sure that I'm never hurt. And that's ridiculous because, you can't protect from that. But how did you learn to be more of a vulnerable leader? Is there a story there that you'd like to share?
So, it really goes back to those first sales reps that I coached. They would tell me some really hard things about myself, and I really had to, I'll give you an example, and this is so embarrassing. But as a new leader, I was so busy all the time, trying to sell with my accounts that I'd still had on my hands, because I was having a hard time letting go, trying to keep all the reports and do all the meetings and do all that, and then lead them, that sometimes they would call me and they would be having these discussions with me, and I would be multitasking and maybe sending an email or doing that. And they could tell that I wasn't intently, 100% listening.
Yeah.
And I just thought that, in my head, I was just getting a bunch of things done and trying to be as productive as I possibly could. But I really had to let that guard down and let what they were saying to me, sink in, and have that vulnerability with them, and just say, I'm really sorry that you thought that. And, and then it's really hard, even moving forward, when you're that busy, to not try to multitask and do multiple things. But I've really made it a top priority, because even a couple of years later, I was in a leadership meeting, and we were, all discussing things, but I was also on my computer. And one of those people went to my supervisor and was like, "Did you see her? She was on her computer while we were all doing this." And I was just like, "Oh my gosh!" Sometimes you don't even notice.
Yeah.
But you really have to be intent. And you have to, when you're getting that feedback, you have to be vulnerable, because if you're not, and you have all your guards up and you're like, "Oh, whatever," you're not going to grow. You're not going to become a better leader.
Wow. And that's a pitfall for Enneagram 3s. Every 3 leader I know has that part of them that's you're so goal oriented. I want to multitask. I want to do 12 things at once, because you're moving the ball down the field, and you can fall into the trap of not letting other people feel like you're not present with them.
And that's leading to you being ineffective, which, as a 3,
yeah,
we don't like to not be perfect.
Right.
It's really hard for us. So, being ineffective is that would be devastating to me.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah. Because you want to be effective. You want to be seen as productive and successful. And
you want your image to be good.
Yeah. The whole 9 yards. Right. Yeah. But then sometimes we do things that self-sabotage, and we don't even realize it. Yeah. So I didn't tell you we were going to talk about Enneagram and leadership, but real quickly, if you had advice, wisdom to share with a young 3 who is entering into leadership, what would you tell them?
So, as a 3, it's so important that people like us, that we're always seen in that positive light. But a lot of times that can get in the way with having crucial conversations with people on your team, or overthinking feedback that you've gotten from a supervisor or someone, on a higher level than you, trying to make you a better leader. So really, humility, I think, is a really big thing that you have to be sure to hone in on. And it's not something that happens overnight. It takes many, many years. And honestly, I'm still working on all of that, because I'm so concerned about what people think of me and how perfect I am on this podcast, or, whatever it might be. Yeah. And just letting that guard down and just, be yourself, and just hone in on that. And humility is the key.
Yeah. Okay. Deeper question for you, Shannon, my friend. Here we go. A lot of Enneagram 3s I know, most of us, who've been in leadership, you've been at this nearly 3 decades, you're about to enter your 4th decade of leadership. And a lot of times we have to go through this nodal event, a failure, a deep hurt, or maybe just a leadership lesson? And I'm not asking you to share that unless you really want to, but can you think of it? Can you think of one? Did that happen to you? Was there a time when, okay, this thing happened, and then after that you were more vulnerable with your team, more open with yourself, more honest with yourself as a leader? Is there an event in your life where that happened?
Absolutely. And then there was the next one that reminded me of the first one.
Yeah. And so sometimes, as much as those things hurt, what is it?
Many tears.
Yeah.
Many tears.
Yeah.
But you look back on it and it hurt so bad then, but you look back on it and you just, honestly, that has also shaped who I am today. And I'm very grateful for it. Mm-hmm. And and it really comes to some of those leaders in your life that made that impact, and ones that you'll never forget, and I'll always appreciate them for that.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that with us. Well, okay, switching gears. Okay. Thinking about organizations in general, because you've worked in healthcare, you've worked in, in other industries, and thinking about organizations as a whole. So what have you seen as some of the biggest barriers to creativity in organizations? Like, we think about organizational structure, and how can, so this is kind of a two-part question. So what are the barriers to creativity in organizations? And then how can we as leaders help remove some of those barriers?
So I can think of a few, actually, and I would say the biggest one is the people on your team having that fear of failure or saying the wrong thing. Mm-hmm. So coming out and saying something, and that will stifle a team. So, and it's held me back in the past as well, because I'm like, I don't want people to think I'm not doing a good job, so I don't want to say it, So that's something I've worked on personally, and I've learned to speak up, and it's definitely, as I've learned that, just like, don't be scared to say it, just say it. And if they're like, well, no, it's fine. But there's been so many times when they've like, yes, I like that. And then you build on it. And then you create, it's kind of like a think tank where you're just like throwing ideas off of each other. And then, others that I think of as like strict processes within an organization, or resistance to change, or burnout. And then, lack of that leadership support, which is really what this all is surrounding, is support as a leader. Mm-hmm.
But you make a really great point that, okay, thinking about, tying in psychological safety, but then there's also this internal barrier of, I don't want to look stupid. I don't want to say the dumb thing that, even though everybody else may be thinking something similar, I don't want to be the person that jumps out there and risks looking stupid in front of everybody on the team. And there's, I've recently learned about a new brainstorming technique, and it's basically, you brainstorm all the ridiculous, crazy, stupid, irrational ideas first. And so, like, you have to say the stupid thing. You have to say the crazy idea that won't work. Like, let's just throw all the stuff that's, throw out and brainstorm the junk, the crazy stuff that we know, like, we're not going to do. And then maybe that will create the psychological safety and, clear the cobwebs, clear the junk, so that you can get to the good stuff, the good ideas.
I like that.
I've never seen it done in practice. But
I want to do it.
What I know, right? What would happen if we did that?
I think it would definitely stem the better ideas at the end, or even maybe people think something stupid and they're like, wait, no, this is great. I mean, you could take some idea that was stupid and really make it an amazing one. Mm-hmm. I like that.
Yeah, because that's part of creativity is building on each other's ideas. And so something might be crazy and ridiculous, but there might be just a glimmer in there that, like, I hadn't thought about that. What if? What if we took that little piece out and attached it to this? What would happen if we did that? Mm-hmm. If you try that technique, I want to know how it goes. Okay. Like with your team, if you like, okay, let's just throw out all the crazy ideas that won't work first, and then we'll get
Yeah,
to the.
if you'll share that with me where you were reading that.
Oh, absolutely. I'm happy to.
Thanks.
So yeah, you're welcome. I'm so curious to hear how that goes, and because I have a feeling it'll work, because that gives
I do too.
people the permission to share the crazy, share the wild ideas that, and maybe there is something in there that is really valuable. Yeah.
That's fun. That'll be a super fun activity. I can't wait.
Yeah.
I'll let you know.
Yeah. Let me know. So how can leaders, in addition to like coming up with the crazy ideas, how can leaders encourage their team to think creatively? Like even in high pressure or, structured business environments, you're talking about like highly regulated industries, like in healthcare. We've both worked in healthcare, and it's very structured, very regulated. And I think that the possibility of risk is what keeps a lot of people and a lot of industries from being creative. But how can we encourage our teams to reach for more creativity?
So the one word comes to mind, and that's support. If a team doesn't have the support of their leader, this will stifle anything. It could be creativity, it could be production. It could be anything. So they have to have that support and know that there are no bad ideas, and praise those that bring ideas and suggestions to the table, even if they're not, the best or the number one. You got to praise it. So then people can be like, oh, well, they're doing it. Now I want to do it. Just kind of create that between the team, and then give them an opportunity to get together on a regular basis and whiteboard and strategize growth and learning opportunities, and creating that culture where everyone feels that safe space and collaborative approach.
I love that it's almost like the leaders go first. Like when you show vulnerability, when you show the openness to creative ideas and whiteboarding, and like you don't have all the answers. No, I'm going to go to the team for their creativity, and how can I unlock their wisdom that they have. That's how we get there.
Yeah. A leader is only as strong as their team. Like you have to, I want my team to look better than I do. I think it's so important. So just giving them that power and enabling them to be at their best at all times. And that's what makes a strong team.
Yeah. Greatness doesn't matter if you can't help other people be great. Yeah.
And I've always been that person that leads by example. I would never ask a team member to do something that I would not go out and do. Like I've been out in the field hitting accounts or, doing whatever it is. I would never ask anyone to do something that I wouldn't do.
And your team notices that. Like people, we notice it when our leaders aren't willing to do the hard things, do the grunt things, the things that, is obviously they're past that in their journey. But if they aren't willing to scrub the floors, why should I scrub the floors?
Right. I'll scrub a floor. It's not my favorite thing to do. But I'll do it.
But he's doing, if it's to be, it's up to me, right? Like that's an old Horst Schultz quote, the gentleman who co-founded the Ritz-Carlton. Like it is, if it's going to be, it's up to me. So
I bet he scrubbed a bunch of floors.
I bet he did. So let's talk about failure, because that is something that neither one of us like. But we touched on it just a little bit while ago. But what role do you think failure plays in creativity, and how should organizations approach failure when we're trying new ideas?
I think that it's an integral part of the creative process. Everyone fails at something. And if you're scared to fail, then you're really holding yourself back. Not all ideas are going to be successful, right?
Right.
It would be awesome if they were. I think we'd be in a totally different spot right now. But, you have to understand that. And we have to approach it as a learning opportunity, because you don't know until you try. And there's a quote by Bill Gates, and it says, "It's fine to celebrate success, but it is more important to heed the lesson of failure." And I could not agree more to that. Success is great, but you have to take those lessons, because there's always something that's going to come out of it.
Yeah.
Failure or not.
Yeah. Success has something to teach us, like here's how you can do it. Here's how you can win. But failure has so much more to teach us, doesn't it? Than success.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Absolutely.
So looking ahead, where do you see the biggest opportunities for businesses to leverage creativity as a competitive advantage? You're a sales professional. You are always on the cutting edge of business development. So how can we use creativity as a competitive advantage?
So I think it's a key differentiator in businesses. It's no longer just about coming up with new products or services. It's really about like shaping and innovating a culture and bringing forward those impactful experiences to find those fresh solutions and answers to challenges, or think ways to navigate through the challenges. Creative businesses, they're going to have the competitive advantage no matter what.
Yeah. And, when we look back at the, historically, organizations that aren't creative, they're not innovative, and they perish. Like they cease to exist. I think about some of the organizations that were part of our childhood, Blockbuster, for example. Like,
oh gosh, I'd love going to that place, getting that candy.
Right. There's, but they failed to innovate. They failed. They didn't adapt. They didn't change. They didn't use the creativity of their employees to move to a new era, and they died. As a result. So organizations that use creativity can be more innovative. Is what I hear you saying. Yeah. Well,
absolutely.
You've given us a lot. Gosh, you've given me so much gold, Shannon. And if we were to wrap this up and thinking about taking your many years of experience in leadership, so what's one piece of advice you would give to leaders who want to become better at fostering creativity in their teams? What would you tell them?
So many leaders, in my opinion, are uncomfortable with getting creative. These big organizations where, there's a million different processes you have to go through to get things to happen. I think really, first of all, honing in on getting comfortable yourself with being creative, and then really pushing it to your teams and promoting it with your teams and making that safe space and supporting them. Just make sure you have all of those pieces and that inside you are comfortable with it and you're practicing it, and then push that to your teams. And I think it'll impact your team and yourself professionally and within your organization.
Yeah, that's so good. Yeah, that fear of creativity, or the fear of the risk that might come with creativity, we got to get over that. Like we've got to set that aside, because we've got big challenges to tackle, and we're not going to do it if we don't unleash the creativity of everyone in the organization, especially everybody on our team that's within our small sphere of influence, right? Well, Shannon, yes. This has been a fantastic conversation, but before I let you go, my research assistant, Percy the penguin, he has a few questions for you. Percy, are you there? All right. Thank you, Percy. So, Percy's first question is from a previous guest, Craig Detweiler. And this question is, so Craig's question for you is, what inspires you to wake up in the morning? Why on any given day do you go, okay, I'm going to try this again?
There are a few things. My family, being hands-on with them and spending time with them every day. I love it. My kids are now teenagers and going to be leaving the nest soon, even though I'm trying to talk them into staying home and going to college right down the road at USF.
Good luck.
But having that time, just getting up and seizing the day and having that time with family, it makes me want to get up every day. And then secondly is making an impact in my position with Griffin Resources currently. Making an impact with the people that we work with our clients, with our creative ideas and how we're going to, push it to the next level in 2025. All of those things really motivate me and excite me. Like I haven't in a really long time felt like, oh gosh, really? Like I have to get up today. I have to work today. It's been a really inspirational role for me, and I've really enjoyed it.
It sounds like you have found, the place where you can just truly thrive and make an impact.
Yes, I absolutely. It's been amazing.
Yeah.
It's been such a blessing.
Gosh. Well, whatever happens with the kids, I hope that it's best for everybody. But I understand why it's, as you were looking at your oldest graduating in a year or two, like why would you, that's hard. Like you want to keep them close to home. So that's great. Well, Percy also wants to know, what is one question you would like to ask a future guest?
I would like to ask your next guest, what is something that you have not done yet that is essentially on your bucket list, or something that you have plans to do? Why haven't you done it? And what are you going to do to make it happen in the next year or two?
Ooh, Shannon, that's good. I cannot wait to ask them that. Fantastic. Well,
you got to tell me when it's on.
I will.
I gotta listen to the answer.
Yeah. Well, it'll be the one right after your podcast airs. So
okay, perfect.
Yay. So Shannon, thank you so much for sharing your creative insights, your wisdom with us today. Your energy is contagious. So how can our listeners find you?
So I am on LinkedIn. Look for Shannon Tremel. I would love to connect with you. I love growing my connections and really getting to know my connections. So if you ever want to have a quick virtual meeting or anything, I would love to do that. Just reach out.
Yeah. Great. Thank you, Shannon. And thank you to our listeners for joining us in this conversation. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please don't forget to subscribe and share it with someone who could use a dose of inspiration and creativity. And please leave us a review. We read every single one and they're so precious. So until next time, keep saying amen to creativity and bold thinking, transformational growth, and meaningful conversations. May you be wildly creative in your life and leadership. I'll see you soon.